Welcome to this drawing tutorial. I'm Andrew Brett. I'm an artist, and starting here, you can see how I've gridded up to make this portrait drawing easier. The squares allow me to focus on individual aspects of the drawing and look at the lines that are created between the negative and positive spaces, as well as the features of the face. Looking at the lines in this way allows me to draw what I see, rather than what I'm thinking about when I'm drawing a portrait of a man. What this means is, I can see the lines and the shapes and how they interrelate, and I can depict these accurately, without being confused in my mind by thinking of what a nose should look like, what a jacket should look like, what nostrils should look like, what a chin line should look like, what any of it should look like really. And rather, I'm drawing what I see, or what's represented in the photograph. I block in large areas to quickly give me the form of the subject. You can see the grid here. I've made an effort to line up the squares, the lines, with key features of the face. So for instance, we can see the side of his face aligns with the side of the grid. His lips align with a horizontal line of the grid, as does his forehead and eyebrow lines. By marking these shapes, it allows us to create the appearance of the character, while focusing only on the lines that we see, how they relate to each other, and how they relate to the lines of the grid that we have created. It's a gradual process, gently building up towards the desired effect. I'm using a range of pencils here from soft to dark, 8B pencils, 4B pencils, to allow us to create dark areas gently. The lighter pencils, the HB and so on, are better for sketching in the lines. When we need to create a dark area of tone, it's good to use darker pencils. The eyes in this picture actually form a more difficult part of the picture, because there's more decisions to be made inside the smaller square. There's less lines to relate it to. So I've been avoiding it actually in this case. But working around gently, I can gradually build a form, the outer hair, etc. And gradually, as I'm left with little choices, start to work on the more inner features of the face. Being careful, in my mind, not to use the terms nose, eyes, chin, lips, but rather look for the shapes, look how dark they are, look at the spaces of shading, and try to capture these subtly with the pencil and build up my form. You'll find some areas of the picture are easier to work on than others. Be careful here, as there is a tendency for procrastination. By shaving the graphite in this way, with a blade, we can create areas of dust that can be smudged to give areas of even tone, quickly blocking in shadows. This of course gives a sense of depth to your picture, and makes it easier to achieve a realistic effect, particularly for beginners, where our tendency is not to want to mess up by colouring in too much on the white spaces that seem to look okay. The use of the eraser is also very handy here, revealing white areas and even drawing white shapes as this to create the highlights on the face. The background is also useful to draw, as it allows us to be sure that items such as the ear are in the correct position relative to the grid and the background. So continuing to draw, to sketch, to develop, gradually building up more and more definition is obtained by working this way. When we turn it the right way up, we can see that it's starting to look good. Trying to gently mark in lighter areas of tone, this gives form to the face. And working on darker areas helps to give definition to the lighter areas too. Using the eraser allows us to erase mistakes and to make lighter areas look better on the picture. The darker pencil is useful for adding more shadow. It's useful to see your work in a photograph because it separates you from it somehow and allows you to see what others see, particularly if you're looking at it upside down or even in a mirror. Being separate from the image in this way allows you to see if there's any mistakes or areas that need to be worked upon, as well as areas that are working good. Picking out highlights around the hair with the eraser allows us to get definition on that shape of the hair. Gradually building up the shadow around the collar area of the shirt, and adding in tone around the lower parts of the face to the side. With the ear, it's interesting to get the shape right, the shape of the shadow. There's usually a few in there. Find how dark they are, what shapes they are, how they relate to each other, and just put in what you see. It's the same with the nose and the highlights on the nose. Get those white spaces in, even on the forehead. Look for the lines of lightness. Look for the spaces that are dark, light, mid-tones. There's probably about 10 gradating scales that you need to watch for to get those subtle transitions. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert. This is the approach I take, and it seems to work sometimes. The eyes again. You're looking for those shapes. Forget that you're drawing an eye. Look for the shape of dark. How big is it? How round is it? What about the shape of white inside in the eye? How large is that? What are the angles of it? Outside the eye, what are the angles of light? Use the upside down technique to allow you to separate from the ideas of labels and just look for those shapes and try to mark as boldly as you can. Usually the boldness has a good mark in it. You'll know when it's finished. You'll feel like inside you can't do any better. You can't do any more to make this picture better. That's when I tend to stop.